This is our third meeting of the day. We had one this morning for our business community. Our afternoon meeting was for our institutions and educational, and tonight is for our community, which was interchangeable. A lot of folks kind of intermingled in each of the meetings here. My name is Bob Zinkowski. I'm the Township Manager. On behalf of the Board of Commissioners, we welcome you here today. We have this rather large event that's coming to the Philadelphia region here that will bring a number of people here to Radnor Township as part of this. The police department has been working on this preparedness program here for well over a month and getting ready for this onslaught of a number of individuals who will be coming here to town, which I know the number has been pretty steady, but we're probably one of the biggest areas that are going to have this. And they've done very well with putting the operational plan together. I'm very confident, and I know that we are well prepared on the safety side. I think we're going to do an outstanding job. Again, as we are well prepared on our end, so less of me, more of them. So I'll turn it over to Superintendent Bill Calrulo.
Good evening, everyone. Like the Township Manager said, this is our third meeting. First one was 7:30 this morning. But a couple of months ago, when we heard that the Pope was coming here, and you watch any news broadcasts about it, it's almost like, oh my God, you know, this is turning into from a joyous occasion to something that we dread, because all you hear is you can't get here, you can't get there. If you leave, you're not going to be able to come back. So the Township Manager directed us to come up with a plan, come up with a strategy, start attending meetings with the county, and then internal meetings, and then meetings with other departments. So that's what we did. And I think after tonight, a lot of your questions will be answered. And of course, afterwards, any questions you do have, please feel free, and these gentlemen will be able to explain to the best of their ability. We have a pretty significant set plan, but again, it's fluid enough that it can adjust as needed. So the people that are going to be presenting is Lieutenant Chris Flanagan, who's in charge of Special Ops, Lieutenant Andy Block, who's in charge of operations, Sergeant George Smith, who is our strategic planning officer and also operates our emergency operations center. Also participating, and they went to a number of meetings as well, is Sergeant Joe McGuire, who's sitting off to my right, and he's also the Radnor Fire Chief, so he's been very instrumental. And I know Bob Tate was here. He was designated by the Township Manager. He's right over there next to Joe, as our public information officer as need be. So I'm going to start it off with Lieutenant Flanagan.
Thank you, Chief. I want to welcome everybody. We're going to take a look at the Papal visit and break it down, how it started, what rules are mandating where we are. We'll go from there, our planning, some safety tips, and then we'll end with specific site information and road information, so we're dialed into Radnor Township. We'll get right into the authority. The reason we are here is because obviously the World Meeting of Families is hosting an event or a conference in the city of Philadelphia, and the Pope is coming, which has created a national security special event, which means the Department of Homeland Security empowered the United States Secret Service to be the lead agency on security, travel, and all sort of the secondary issues that go along with that event. What does that mean to us? Well, what it means is the 5-county region is affected by the power, the authority given by Homeland Security to the Secret Service, where road closures, restrictions, flight changes, and anything else. So it does have a trickle-down effect even to our community. So some of the road closures, we've had to make some different plans and address that, and we'll go into that in detail, but that's why we're doing what we did, because the government empowered that group of people to handle that. The next group level would be Delaware County. Delaware County Council realized it had a major effect to their county and the other ones, not just Philadelphia, and they created their local emergency planning committee, which Radnor Fire, Radnor Police, and Sergeant George Smith, who will go over our Emergency Operations Center. We've all attended multiple meetings where we share information and set up ourselves during this heavy period of workload so that everybody knows what everybody's doing, and it's a coordinated effort. And that's very important key in one of these things. Radnor Township in particular, on August 17th, the Board of Commissioners approved a state of emergency. On that meeting, what we did is, it wasn't because we think we're going to have a huge emergency. We're going to be under stress of traffic and some other things, and it's not made to scare anybody. What this does is it allows the police the township or the manager to make special acquisition purchases, shut down roads, do some other things based on circumstances changing. Part of Sergeant Smith's duties, besides coordinating the emergency, is sort of the aftermath cleanup, where if we do have the opportunity, which we hope, but not likely, but we do hope to recoup some of the staffing costs, this will allow us under that designation to hopefully recoup some of those costs. To get into the event and the timeline, how we have to start gearing up towards what's going to happen in this township. The World Meeting of Families starts December 22nd. They're calling it a large conference that would be in the city of Philadelphia. So that really wouldn't affect us, the large conference. Maybe we see a couple buses and some other things. But the Pope arrives in the United States, and he has 2 days in Washington. On Thursday, he moves to New York and spends the day in Friday. Friday's where we believe we're going to see a change in Radnor Township and our surrounding communities. That's when a large group of people are coming in preparation to find their hotel. The Pope will be arriving Saturday morning, and in particular, and we'll go over this more details, some of the road closures, in particularly 76, are going to make their closures or at least start working on them at 10 p.m. Friday. So that's where we're going to start to see the effect. Saturday morning, the Pope will arrive in Philadelphia at the airport, and he'll begin his journey through here. Sunday is the biggest day of impact to Radnor and the surrounding communities, as the main mass, the focal point of the visit, will be here. There's a couple handouts. We want to make sure that you get them. This is one of the handouts that has the various websites that relate to the Pope, the visit, and all of the secondary events, such as supposedly there's a family fun day at Valley Forge National Park that we've been informed of, and the details of that. But on this page, which is at the front, if you didn't get it, it'll go over all those particulars. We'll keep moving, but at least you have knowledge of what's going on for those events. What will happen once they gear up in full capacity, the Ben Franklin Bridge will be closed, I-76 eastbound from 476 to I-95, and I-76 westbound from I-95 to US Route 1 or the Roosevelt Boulevard, I-676 in both directions from 76 to I-95, and US Route 1 in both directions from US 30 to Belmont, which is commoners kind of call it City Line Avenue, from Lancaster to Belmont Avenue, are going to be closed. That's going to be some of the routes they use. And we believe that the 76 closure, if you didn't make plans, it's going to dump you onto the Blue Route. The first place you could get off, if you choose to, would be our Lancaster Avenue exits. And then Lower Merion having backup and congestion could absolutely affect Upper Darby, Haverford, and Radnor. The other event we have is that Paoli train station is a very large train station that's going to receive visitors on both days, so we believe we'll see a lot of crisscross of traffic to both the train stations. This red line demonstrates just how wide sort of the traffic closures and effects may be, so it just kind of puts it into perspective. The SEPTA train map is basically going from over 282 stations to 32 stations of delivery of service for the Papal weekend. We're going to go into a little bit more depth, but the normal rail service and trolley service is completely altered. You will not be able to use it as you normally do. It is restricted for the Papal visit. This is another important handout, especially for businesses, owners, or if you have to travel in by the city. This is SEPTA's live websites where they'll have direct information on what's going to happen, how it's going to work. Right now, bus service is supposed to remain intact, but I think you should really expect delays. And then places that receive or you get to work, you can't, again, use those train stations. The other big issue is you may want to consider having a backup plan Monday. They're not exactly sure how Monday's going to play out. In other words, how they clean out the city, and also the train staff in particular, trolley and train staff, are federally mandated for limited work hours, and they're not quite sure how that's going to impact Monday. So you should have some contingency plans. Here's some general considerations for you to follow, whether you're a business owner or a resident or just coming through. Traffic congested, they say it'll be unprecedented. We've seen that on the news. One of the largest public events ever in the East Coast. Planned and unplanned road closures. We've given you what we know to be the planned road closures, but based on the type of traffic load or an accident or something else, we may have to make unplanned road closures here in Radnor. We hope not to, and we're going to do everything we can not to do that, but we have to be prepared for change. Regular air traffic at PHL Airport should not be impacted. You should plan on having impact on workers' schedules, transportations, and route to work. And it's not just them getting to work. Remember, their family, loved one, or children may have impacts which may affect them, so you may want to confirm all those things. Rail and bus transportation schedules changed. They suggest if you have to use a car, try and carpool or anything, the least amount of vehicles possible. Your daily operations, you want to plan an allocation of supplies, deliveries for the week, and that sounds like a big word. For example, the township managers directed us to get fuel, all our additional supplies a week before. So we definitely want to do that, make sure that we're set up. The same should apply to you if you had a special delivery, you needed whatever it is, if you need fuel oil for hot water, all those things should be called in, consideration into your plans. Language barriers due to influx of visitors. If you have a business or you're out, you should expect to see a wide variety of people in the area. Again, the impact time, they say Thursday through Monday. I definitely think it'll dial up Friday and possibly carry into Monday. Multiple schools and colleges are closed or making adjustments in their schedule. Please stay on top of that. And again, that could affect your travel in or your workers. Spot gas shortages, although we're a township, you should plan, in my opinion, to fill up your car before the weekend starts and keep it filled as much as possible. You can expect heavy traffic. We're expecting 20,000, up to 20,000 train visitors. Sergeant Smith's going to go over some of the current numbers he got today. There'll be road restrictions based on that right around our 2 train stations, Zone 1 and 2. We'll go over a specific map. Weekend school activities in the Radnor School District and most of the colleges are canceled. Be practical, plan ahead for whatever you're doing. Grocery shopping, gas for family cars, check on planned appointments, plan travel accommodations. If you're going away or coming in and out through a major transportation hub, make sure you check in before you drive down. That'll be very important. The other sign-up sheet, which we'll go over, we have township staff that'll meet you. Want to make sure when our emergency operations center goes into service, we'll be producing as much live information to you as possible. We want to make sure you're set up for our Civic Ready and our automatic notifications so you can stay on top of unforeseen changes. I'm going to introduce Lieutenant Andy Block, who's going to go over the safety and security.
Thank you, Lieutenant Flanagan. Good evening, and I want to welcome everyone as well to our information session tonight. Thank you for coming out. What we want to do over the next few minutes is just provide you with some background information as far as a heightened level of awareness, starting now and up through the end of this event. It's important. Some of these things may seem elementary, but we're reinforcing that with our residents, obviously the schools, the businesses throughout the community itself. So when we talk about that heightened level of awareness, we want people to be aware of the influx of people that are going to be coming into our community for a number of different reasons. Sometimes you may have a situation where it ends up being it's a suspicious person, and we tend to rationalize this, generally speaking, and we say it's really nothing. We dismiss it and we go about our ways. What we're asking everybody to do is if you see something that you think is out of the ordinary, or your gut, which rarely fails you, is telling you there's a problem, we need to know about it. You need to call 911 so we can send officers out to investigate it. It may end up being very innocent, and that's fine, but again, it's information and intelligence that we need to get that we pass on, and I'll explain to you in a few minutes on how we take all that information and what we do with it. So when we're talking about suspicious people maybe in the area, somebody that's acting in an odd manner, don't dismiss that. Just people say, oh, he's acting weird. Well, that's fine, but we've got a major event going on in the region. We need to know about that. With the way the weather is right now, it's fairly warm out. If somebody's wearing an overabundance of clothing, they're layered and whatnot, that's a general concern because they may be in a situation where they're concealing items. Again, it's a call to 911, have the officers come out, and then we'll end up checking the individual. If they start requesting detailed information about locales throughout the township, the institution's property, things of that nature, all right, why do they want that information? Again, that should raise some questions and concerns in one's mind, and again, we need to be notified so we can come out and conduct the appropriate investigation. If you see people that are in the area that are taking photos of different locations, specifically close to the train stations that are involved here, whether it be the high-speed line or the Paley-Thorndale local, we want to know about that. We maintain surveillance on those locations right now, the general security and whatnot. However, as we get closer to the event, if people are over there and they're taking pictures and or sketches, we need to know about that because it could end up being a security threat to the general area. In addition to that, if you hear people or you see people that are talking or they're approaching you and they're asking about the security and the operations within the township for different institutions, schools, businesses, and whatnot, again, all right, it raises the question why, and that why should be answered by the police department. We talked about taking notes, drawing diagrams. If you do encounter an individual and you try to speak with them, their body language may tell you something different, that they are, in all seriousness, avoiding eye contact and things of that nature. It's telling you that they're being less than truthful with you. Again, we need to notify the police, and that's why we're raising the awareness this evening, and that starts this week all the way through the event. If you see somebody that continues to visit the same location, they come back, you don't know who they are, it's another area that we need to address, as well as if you are speaking with that individual and they have a cover story that is not believable or you feel that it's not on the level, we want to address this situation. So how do we address it? We address it through you by contacting 911 so we can have an officer respond to it. In addition to that, we talk about suspicious people. There's also vehicles. As you've heard, starting on that Friday evening prior to the Papal visit, the Schuylkill Expressway will be shut down at approximately 10 o'clock p.m. So there will be an influx of traffic coming through Radnor down the Route 30 corridor, and we'll see that all weekend long with the people that are coming in to use the public transportation railways. So there'll be additional vehicles in the township. Some of these vehicles could end up becoming a suspicious vehicle depending on some of the mannerisms that they may exhibit when they're in the area. So if you see a vehicle you're in close proximity to one of the rail stations in a residential neighborhood where the vehicle is a repeat vehicle, it's slowly driving through the area, and it has a fair amount of occupants in it, you need to call 911 on that. We spoke to the schools and the businesses earlier today, and we made them aware of that as well. If those vehicles end up in their parking lots around their businesses and whatnot, it's something that we would like them to be a good witness. We need everybody to be a good witness. Get a good description of the vehicle up to and including the license plate. If you can do so, and call 911, and then the police will take it from there. If the vehicles are parked and occupied containing one or more persons, especially at unusual locations or hours, again, it's a 911 call so we can investigate this and vet out any threats that there may be there. Abandoned vehicles. If you see an abandoned vehicle that shows up most recently on your street, if you're working in the township at one of the institutions or business campuses, that's something that needs to be called in right away. It may be an innocent situation where somebody's trying to unload a car they no longer need, but we take these complaints very seriously and we'll respond to them. And if you do observe that vehicle, if you happen to be walking around it, if you see any suspicious items in it, make note of it. Don't touch the vehicle. In addition to the suspicious items, there could be smells or something else emanating from the vehicle in that situation. So again, we're asking you to address these situations. And how do you do that? It's essentially just calling 911 and having the Radnor police respond to investigate. In addition to that, we want to talk and touch briefly on the lone wolf ideology. Simply what happens with some of these larger events, this is a concern, a general concern that we have. We're not trying to alarm anyone, but it's something that we need to address and keep our eye on. And one of the ways we do that is by the public, you, our residents, being very, very vigilant to what's happening and making that phone call. But the lone wolf basically operates under their own volition. They adopt a platform, whatever the cause might be, and some of those examples that I have here this evening is ISIS, the Islamic State. You have the Earth Liberation Front, the Animal Liberation Front. They tend to think outside the box when it comes to terrorism. And when I say it's a lone wolf ideology, they have the basic platform, but they're not working in conjunction with whatever organization that they believe in that ideology. So it's a dangerous situation because nobody can track them. If it's somebody that is connected to one of the known terrorist organizations, a little bit more intelligence will come through on it. And examples of this, to put it in perspective, in this country has seen over the last 30 years is there's Ted Kaczynski, who was the Unabomber. There's Timothy McVeigh, who was responsible for the Oklahoma City bombings of the federal building there, and Colleen LaRose, who was also Jihad Jane. So these are just things that we're trying to provoke people's awareness, and have a heightened sense of awareness within the community. In addition to the suspicious persons and vehicles, abandoned backpacks, bags, and suitcases, anything that you see that's in an area that it seems odd to you, all right, don't approach it. Call 911. We'll have officers and additional resources within the region in Delaware County that we can come and we can properly examine those items to make sure that they're not potentially IEDs or any other type of device that's out to harm the public. Suspicious or packages of unknown origins for the business owners and the schools we spoke about earlier today, that usually there's a central receiving and a distribution of packages that comes into a location. If something arrives there that wasn't ordered, it's suspicious. It's another situation where we don't want to disturb. We want to come and examine it ourselves. Also, social media. Just about everybody in this day and age is on social media to one aspect or another. So we would ask you to monitor your social media pages. If you see something that's disturbing or could be a perceived threat, to notify local law enforcement, not just here if you're not in Radnor, wherever you may be, especially with the emphasis on the Papal event and the Pontiff's visit over that weekend. That information is extremely important because essentially when you notify law enforcement, we work in conjunction with fusion centers. There are local, state, regional, as well as federal fusion centers that we deal with. And you may have a piece of information that you give to us that may seem inconsequential. It's really not important, but we take it, we give it to the fusion centers, and then they start plotting. If they start getting similar calls or similar incidents throughout the region, they can be able to start linking that, and that can be one of the areas where we prevent something from happening. So it's very important because with intelligence-led policing right now, we're able to hopefully prevent any type of incident or God forbid, a terrorist incident during this joyful event. So again, we appreciate you coming this evening to hear our briefings. We want everybody to remember that safety never takes a holiday, and if you see something, please say something. It's really important. A lot of times people just rationalize they don't want to bother the police. We're here and we love being bothered. So we ask you to call 911 or 688-0503. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. One other thing that the superintendent, I was remiss in, has reminded me is Radnor Township has vendor permits they put out on an annual basis, and it's a responsibility of the police department and the superintendent to approve those after a rigorous background check. For the weekend of the Papal visit, we have suspended issuing those vendors' licenses simply because there is no way at this point to be able to verify everybody that's coming in. We've had some people come in that wanted to obtain the vendor's license to be out to be selling different items throughout the train station locations. However, we don't have the time to verify what they're actually selling, and one young lady came in and said that she had holy water she wanted to sell to everybody. And generally that's fine, but in this situation, we don't have the time to go and verify all that. So if you see people that are going door to door, they're out and they're trying to solicit or sell items, notify the police so we can come and we can investigate that as well. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Smith, who is going to walk us through the Emergency Operations Center. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Block. Basically, under the guise of the Board of Commissioners and Township Manager, Mr. Zankowski, that declaration of emergency allowed the township to spin up the Emergency Operations Center. Basically, it's the umbrella that everything else falls under. Normally, on a day-to-day basis, Public Works and police work very well together. An event of this magnitude calls in fire, EMS, ambulance, and stakeholders within the township. Universities, there are a lot of resources and players out there that are aiding a lot of the resource requirements that we need in order to make this happen and have a minimal effect on daily operations. So this room right here will be set up in the EOC and spun up at 0300 hours on Saturday morning. So the chairs will be gone and there'll be an operations center. We'll be linked into PennDOT cameras and some other additional intelligence. And basically, you call that 10-digit number, the 610-688-0503 number, you will get a human being to help guide you through your questions. So that's a service that's offered by Radnor Township, and we're very proud about that. We have a great opportunity in front of us. We have two showcase areas for entry down into Philadelphia, the Radnor train station and the Villanova P&W. The Radnor train station obviously if you're familiar with it, it's off of King of Prussia Road. The major road closure is going to be King of Prussia Road between Radnor Chester Road and Matson Ford Road. And that will help us alleviate pedestrian crossing from the major parking lots used to get people across and into the SEPTA parking lot and on the train and then down into Philadelphia. Radnor Chester Road will be limited access one-way direction from King of Prussia Road only. You will only be able to get northbound on Radnor Chester Road from Lancaster Avenue to the 150 entrance. So we'll be pushing people into the parking lot. There's multiple areas for parking. We feel confident about this area. SEPTA has done a great job connecting with businesses and getting authorization to park vehicles there, so we're quite happy how that is proceeding. Anywhere you see a red X will be a manned police position, so the critical positions will be manned by police officers. We have a parking authority that's assisting with parking. Our Citizens Police Academy are volunteering their services to aid in coming up with a parking plan to help the police facilitate the parking in an efficient manner. King of Prussia Road is the two arrows that you see. It'll be two-way traffic. You can go both normal traffic as you see now, but Lancaster Avenue, making a left onto King of Prussia Road, will be closed. We're trying to facilitate as much straight-through traffic on Lancaster Avenue to get down to Villanova so they don't cross-mingle and we have a lot of car crashes. Nothing drains police resources quicker than crashes. And we want to limit that, especially on these 2 days. There's going to be a closure at Matson Ford Road, and obviously there's ample parking on the north side of the platform of the SEPTA line, so ample parking is going to be there. Handicap is primarily on the north side of the roadway, but we will also have some handicap access available at the 201 King of Prussia Road building. This is that pictured right there. And this is all to facilitate large-scale numbers of pedestrians. A normal sidewalk will not be able to handle the flow of pedestrians that we are expecting. So we're going to park them in the 150, 170 building lot and walk them across and have a safety zone south of the bridge to the entry point where SEPTA will start queuing people. As was alluded to earlier, numbers projected for the Radnor stop are within 20% of being total. So we're close to that 20,000 people line, and we expect it to creep a little bit closer as the time gets. Both this line and the Paoli station are two of the highest pedestrian, highest hubs for SEPTA in the area. So we're happy about that. What you're going to see a lot of in Radnor Township, we're going to depend heavily on variable message boards. That's primarily to get people from out of the area efficiently into the parking zones. So the yellow X's are the variable message board. You've seen them in construction zones, do not speed. You know, in Radnor Township, we're pretty good about putting up the radar board and posting your sign. Well, we'll have individual signs of where to park and how to get to each of the stations. So this is a pictograph of where a position would be, and one of the signs would say Radnor Station next two lefts, or something along those lines. Depends on the quality of the board that we are securing from both the county, the state, and internally. We've seen this one during Villanova events. They try and get a lot of the information out. We're a partner with Villanova, and they have aided and allowed us access to boards that they're going to have in place for a football game. So they've been a big help in regards to the planning aspect. One of the key components are having them up on 476 off the ramps, because you're going to Google to get to Radnor. When you get there, you're not going to know where to go. So 2 boards, one saying go right if you're going to Villanova, one saying go left if you're going to Radnor. So we're trying to keep it simple and efficient and organized as much as we can. So both the northbound ramp and the southbound ramp are going to have them. We're trying to get at least 2, if not 4. That way, the traffic's going to see it multiple times. It was alluded to earlier that it's a major impact of traffic. Just visualize 476 southbound during the summer on a Friday. Imagine that in both directions, twice as bad. And that's what it's going to be like. It's going to be gridlock on 476, and it's going to be gridlock on Lancaster Avenue for a period of time. Once most of the people get into Philadelphia, it's going to open back up, and then later in the night, when the people come out, then you're going to have that flux. But you're not going to really be able to say, at 10 a.m., I'm going to be able to get to Gennardi's or Giant or anything like that, because that's not a realistic expectation. A little pre-planning, grocery shopping on Wednesday or Thursday will go a long way to a lot of people's headaches. Again, Matson Ford Road, wherever we're closing a road, there will be a police presence. We are also going to generate some simple directions to get people from the north side to the south side without getting into the neighborhoods and getting lost. That's a major impact, a major problem for the neighborhoods, and we fully understand that. Just like down at Villanova, when I touch base on that, we're treating this like a major sporting event for Villanova. SEPTA is taking over their lot, so it's not Villanova's fault. It's not Villanova doing it. It's SEPTA coming out with the NSSE and trying to make it as efficient as possible. So we're treating it like a major football game. Roadways are going to be closed. The only major difference is Ithan Avenue is going to be one way from Lancaster Avenue, southbound only, till we clear South Campus. The reason being is we need a large area for pedestrians to travel. This is an overhead view of the lot. We're going to be bringing them in from the east and letting them out on the west side. There'll be a drop point close to the bridge for those who are healthy enough to get across the bridge there. If not, that whole red side on the south side where the 2 long arrows are, the southbound traffic will be corridored in with construction fence, the orange snow fencing. It'll be a pedestrian safe zone from the exit of the parking lot all the way down to where Aldwin Lane comes in. So we want to have a safe area for pedestrians to travel and get them in the queue area and get them down to the city and back safely. Again, there are a number of man posts during this operation. And one thing I want to stress is normal police operations are not affected by this. We have an off squad, 2 off squads that are coming in, and they're being detailed to all of these man posts for this event. Regular operation will continue as is. You call 911 for animal complaint or neighbor complaint or noise, you'll get a police officer as quickly as we can. You're not pulling them from this event. So police operations will be normal. This is a special event operations that we're going to mandate and man appropriately. And this is just a picture of how that is. Any questions? Anything I can clear up? Sir? Which zone was that? Yeah. Okay, excellent question. On your left, the parking lot is the rear parking lot for 170 Radnor Chester Road. It's the Lincoln Financial Buildings. Okay. The Financial Center. The building right where the middle pedestrian is 280 King of Prussia. It's the law offices up on King of Prussia Road right before the bridge. They have granted us access for pedestrian passage through there. They would ideally like minimal parking if possible. So we're trying to work with everybody to make it as easy as possible. Sir? Yeah, Saturday is not going to be it's an influx status. SEPTA and everybody else can't put their finger down on it. The only firm thing we're getting is about 18:30, which is 6:30 p.m. When the mass ends, that's when the exodus begins. And they anticipate nonstop trains coming out of the city till at least 11:30, 12 o'clock, until the last person is out. They are not leaving people behind, is what SEPTA said this afternoon at one of our briefings. So that's Sunday. They're going to get people out even on Saturday, but the firmness of the time only happens for the Saturday, because we don't know how long people are going to take to get in, number one, because the numbers have gone from 2 million people down to 1.1 million, now it's 1.2. A lot of the numbers aren't adding up because bus registration is much lower than they first anticipated. Train registration tickets are lower than they anticipated, but ticket sales for in the secure zones are much higher than the numbers are saying. So you do the math quickly, how are they getting into the city if they're not taking public transportation? They're taking cars. So it's going to be a nightmare for that aspect of it. So that's why we want to facilitate the public transportation aspect. That's all right.
You mentioned that segment 476 or 76 was not the entire segment. So someone is shown off of one of those roads at closing and ends up in Radnor. What's the plan for getting them back on the road? That's all they want to do.
We'll get them back on the road. There's going to be enough police presence just from normal operation of patrol duties, let alone just stopping at Radnor Chester Road. There's going to be enough highlighted stuff, and we would hope we're going to push a lot of information out through our website of this map, and we're going to generate a new parking map to say this is the address, these are the coordinates, put it in Google and go from there, because obviously Google's not 100% right, but it'll at least get you close to the area. You're welcome. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Our neighborhood is in walking distance to here. Should we just tolerate people just getting frustrated parking on the side of our road and just walking?
Your area, we're anticipating not a major parking problem in the neighborhoods. That's what we're hoping for, because there's ample open parking at office complex on the north side and the south side of the road. Normal patrol operations will be detailed into the neighborhoods just to check to see if there is, and if we have to, immediately we'll put up no parking signs and rectify that issue. As to put up for it, we're trying to avoid that you'd have to have that migration of people in there. Sir?
Is the parking free for everyone?
In the general lots that we put, yes. There are some parking lots that are requesting donations, and that's their property. They can do as they see fit.
Well, everyone's in town, just someone guarding the cars, so someone
There, like I said, there's a huge police presence. You have,
you're there all day.
yes.
And night, it'll be 24/7 or added coverage, not just traffic posts. The
Yeah.
regular patrol will be beefed up, and we have some countermeasures that we're not able to disclose in public that'll be in play 24/7 starting Friday night.
Yeah, we tried to think of a lot of things and minimize the impact to the regular residents and get information out and try and share as much as possible that's not confidential or, for official use only. And I think we're doing a pretty good job pushing it out, and we're going to continue to the day of the event, during the event, pushing out information. And we feel that it's very important for the residency to be able to call if you have a question and get a person instead of dialing 911 and worrying about the emergency services side. Get a human being that can feel for what your question is. How bad's the traffic, or can I get to Giant, or should I wait a couple hours? That we've had that. We've had that during weather emergencies, and it seems perfectly reasonable to answer it and give you a recommendation. Whether you choose to agree with it or do it, that's totally up to you, but I think the information is more important.
688 or 503, is that answered now, or is that just during the?
That's during Monday through Friday business hours. What we're going to have, we're going to transition that number where that's going out to that counter there, and we're going to have civilian personnel answering it and fielding questions if they can, and then if they can't field the questions with the proper information, getting it to the people that can give you the good information.
24 hours?
Yes. Yes. Any other questions? Lieutenant?
I was just going to ask, since we have the fire chief here and we have local residents, Joe, would you mind just giving it just a quick update on what your plans and initiatives are?
First of all, we're going to have the volunteers staff at the firehouse both Saturday and Sunday. The concern is with the traffic being congested as it is, or it will be, getting them down to the firehouse for a call. So we're going to have them on station. They'll be able to man at least one engine, possibly two engines during that time period. We have 3 ambulances that will be fully manned. 2 of them will be on the station at Radnor Firehouse. One's going to be stationed in the east end of the township, just so we have a little better access down there. Each of the stations has a first aid station that will be set up by Radnor Fire Company, which will be manned by 1 medic and up to 4 EMTs. And the plan down there is if there is some injury, then they can take care of most of it there on site. If the person needs to be transported to the hospital, we're going to have some ATVs down there. The ATV will transport the person away from the site, so we don't have to worry about bringing ambulances right down into where the heaviest congestion is. We have pre-designated pickup points, and then they can pick up the patient, take to the hospital. We have some routes that they're going to travel away from the normal routes to travel down to the hospital. If we have a trauma patient, we've already been in contact with the helicopter services. We anticipate seeing a little maybe more activity with the helicopters, because we're not going to be able to drive a person down to Crozier, down the Blue Route, or down in the city for one of the trauma centers. Paoli's a trauma center. We're not going to be able to get through the center of Paoli that day. We know that. So we're making arrangements with, like I said, some of the air services, and we have the personnel on station. So I think that we have a plan that's pretty solid at this point.
There's 2 updates that I wanted to make sure we got across to the citizens. So you heard the fire department. Mr. Zinkowski has geared up the Public Works Division so that if we have a tree down or some of the simple things where sometimes we would have staff come in and they don't have normal road issues or whatever else, they're actually going to be on site. If we have a tree down, some type of obstacle or whatever else, we have staff on 24/7 from the Public Works Division that'll be able to help us, generators for traffic lights. So we're really beefed up in that area. Second thing is Sergeant Smith did acquire, and we want to let the community know that we're going to have some National Guard troops that will be on post with us. So you're going to see National Guardsmen in military uniforms, so we don't want people to be alarmed. They're assisting us, so we don't have to pay other officers or bring in outside agencies or pay for different things. They'll be at the 2 Zone 1 and Zone 2 locations on a 24/7 basis. It's not to alarm anybody, it's just additional levels of security, preparation, and it also allows us to rotate our staff in and out to give them a break as well. So you will see that, and again, if you had a question, to Lieutenant Bloxing, you would call 911 if it's emergent, or if non-emergent, you would contact our EOC. They'll get you updated information, or they'll dispatch one of the multiple police cars that'll be on status. We've teamed up significantly with the Radnor School District. Our colleges, Villanova, Cabrini, and Eastern, have all offered their services, support, food centers. So we have a great partnership with the community. Brandywine Trust Realty really stepped up to the plate to help us with parking, along with the school district in Villanova, in reference to getting cars off the street. We're hoping not to see any impact of parking. We should have enough parking. You're going to see congestion on the street. If there is a problem, just get a hold of us. Any other questions?
Do people with a train have to be for Radnor or Paoli, or is it general?
It's a good question. For the Papal weekend on the Paoli-Thorndale line, it's site-specific to get on the train. What's different on the return for any of the train or trolley, is there any way you get on the train or stopping at each of the stations? So the return is going to be a little bit different. Probably a benefit to us where there's not a continuous swell of people. So some are going to get off here, some are going to get off of Paoli. So that's going to give us a little bit of opportunity to get them moving before the next batch comes in. So that actually seems like a potential benefit from our planning status. I hope it works as smoothly as it sounds. And then on-site, there'll be ambassadors and police officers from SEPTA with bathrooms and water for those guests coming and going down to the visit. Everybody's trying to make it as nice as possible. So they'll manage once you get into that particular zone.
Any idea, or did you already talk about how long after everyone's left for the night everything will return? I mean, you're not going to be able to take everything down in an hour. The road is 6 a.m. Monday won't be back to normal.
I can say that the King of Prussia Road system, that'll be removed very quickly. Some of the barricades that you saw by Villanova University are going to take a little bit more time, but we also have a pretty significant fleet of people. I anticipate, unless there's a complication, my partners can correct me if I'm wrong, we will have it up and running by 6 a.m. Without problems. I mean, if there's unforeseen things, then we'll have to leave it in play if we can't get people out of here. But if everything runs the way a perfect plan's supposed to, then we should be okay.
What if anything should an average citizen do there? Stay out of that.
I mean, average citizen, we expect life to be a little congested here. And if you're not getting on the trains and stuff, those peak times that we talked about, that 5:30 a.m. is the first train leaving to 1, it's probably going to be our peak time, especially on Sunday. So I think if you can kind of attempt to adjust yourself around those times, the returns, the trains are supposed to leave around 5:30, 6 o'clock, meaning that's when people are supposed to get up there, but we don't know how long it's going to take them to get out of the gates, so there's many variables on the return, but those time frames, if you kind of shoot to avoid them, life should be normal without too much of a problem. You're just going to see an extra police, fire, and a small military contingent, a bunch of public works people standing by for emergencies.
Is there planning suggested during the mass, during the meetings, it'll be very quiet around?
We can say that our main responsibility as far as the papal visit is traffic on Lancaster Avenue, parking those people. If that's quieted down, we assume that it's going to be quiet, but we're prepared for anything, backlog and traffic. The blue route is an unknown factor. We're not giving any predictions on that. We hope it moves perfectly, but we definitely are prepared to do whatever we have to maintain control of Lancaster Avenue and the township streets.
You bring up a great point. If I was a resident, instead of taking the most direct way, Lancaster Avenue, I would make sure I remembered the secondary way or the third way to get wherever I'm going to. Staying off Lancaster Avenue would be a smart thing to do. Conestoga Road is a great bypass for that. So if you have to go out, plan accordingly. Try and stay off Lancaster Avenue and 476 because they're really going to be nightmarish. It was not meant to scare anybody when I said Memorial Day traffic on a Friday in both directions, that's going to be standard. And they're anticipating such a backlog there that no vehicle broken down will be staying on the road. It will be towed immediately off the roadway. That way, 476, at least the shoulders will give emergency apparatus some access to critical events. So whereas a normal broken down vehicle would stay a day or two, it's getting removed immediately. And there's issues on the Blue Route that are going to be addressed by other organizations, but it's going to be appropriately manned in case something happened. But for Radnor, our main thing is getting people to the parking lot and getting them onto the train and opening up the roadway. It's a fluid situation. If we can open King of Prussia Road early, we're going to do it and give some kind of normalcy back to the public. So that's ultimately our goal. Yeah. Just register with the website, and what we do is we push them out when the EOC is activated. We don't. It's not like the sky is falling where you get it every 10 minutes. When we have appropriate information, we push it out. We don't want you to not pay attention to it. When you get the information, what you do with it, totally up to you. But up at that time, it'll be the most factual that we have available for you. Yes, ma'am. Correct. In Radnor Township, we're going to try and limit the closures totally, but we have to get some of the equipment out and staged and do it safely. So depending on the number of variable message boards we get and pre-stage them, cones and barriers and such, we don't anticipate closing any roadway until when we roll out the Emergency Operations Center at 0300. Any other questions I could answer? Or if you ever have questions after you leave here, feel free to call the 10-digit number, get a hold of somebody, and we'll be glad to get back to you. Yeah. Thank you for your time.